Good afternoon, everyone. It's just gone 1:30 here in the UK. The weather can't decide what it's doing. 1 minute it looks nice, next minute it's overcast and potentially rainy, so who knows? Anyway, here to talk about the Sebastian Rogers case today, which is an absolute circus. I've been keeping out of it, honestly, quite honestly. I've been keeping out of it. However, I logged into Twitter this morning. I will never call it X. But I logged into Twitter this morning and Sebastian Rogers was trending. It was trending on Twitter. So I thought, oh my word, what's gone on? What has gone down that has resulted in Sebastian Rogers, who has been missing for 6 months, as you know, if you've been following the case, what has made him trend today? Well, it appears it's because the reward has been increased by another $25,000. So that appears to be what sparked the trend. However, it got me, looking at various posts, and I thought I'm going to have a look back on some of the things I've saved from early on in the case. So I've got a few little clips from early on in the case that I've just saved as, screen recordings. And I thought, just been like pondering, at what point did this case become the absolute circus that it's become? I mean, it's worse than the Summer Wells case ever was, and that was a circus. And I don't know the answer at what point it became a circus, or is it just a accumulation of things? But why has this case become a case that people don't want to talk about? If you want to keep out of the drama, you're no longer really able to talk about this case. So it puts people off. It certainly put me off from talking about this case more. I mean, look, there's only so many things you can say about a case that is, 6 months old, when there's absolutely no new information, and there hasn't been any new information for a long time now. It does become very difficult to keep talking about that case. But it doesn't do the case any favors whatsoever when, you don't even want to mention it, because you end up getting, to bring new things out, you have to participate in the drama, and that's not for me. That's not for me. So we're going to talk about the reward. We're going to talk about the latest stuff, but again, it's not latest stuff as in we're any closer to finding Sebastian, because we're not. We're absolutely not. If anything, we're further away now. Sebastian's even further away than he ever was, because in my opinion, people talking about this case now are perpetuating the drama, and that's really, really, really sad. Really sad. But I want your opinions on it. So I'm going to say a few hellos. I know some people don't like this bit, but if you're on the replay crew, you can always just fast forward through. Hello, Neela in Nebraska, and Jackie in South Africa. Osland in a rainy Norway. Thunderstorms. We had thunder a couple of days ago. Who else have we got here? Barbie 2 Bits. Been waiting for me to address the latest speculations of other YouTubers concerning Sebastian. Value my opinion. Well, honestly, I haven't been watching very much of the latest stuff that has come out about Sebastian, because, in my opinion, it's drama. However, if you've got any particular thing that you want me to talk about, then just let me know. If there's stuff that, I've missed, I can always do a quick search and see if there's any particular thing you want me to talk about. I talked about Mob Crew's analysis of the lights the other day in a live stream. So I've already done that. But otherwise, let me know. what you want me to look at. Hello, Rebecca, Sandra, Lisa, from partly cloudy Central Florida. Yeah, it's partly cloudy. Yeah, the sun's come out now. It's weird. We've got your local grandmummy. Who else have we got? Let's have a look. We've got Lisa. We've got... Oh, my computer is driving me insane. We've got Kimberly, Sue, and a bunch of people. Naomi Rose, Bluebird. Trying to pick out people I haven't said. Rexy, Ketty, Down Under with Love. Hello. Mimi. All right. Okay. But if there is anything that you want me to look at and comment on, then just let me know. Let me know in the chat. But first of all, let's talk about this reward. Yeah, I've only watched one video, and I didn't watch that all the way through. Because, look, like I said in my live stream, is it 2 days ago now, 3 days ago, his basic premise is off. Like the basic video that he did that started off is the bunch of videos he's done now. The basic premise is wrong because you can't overlay the flashlights video onto a screen of Google because it's a different perspective. Like the Google camera is on the top of a car that's driving along a road that, you know, captures the images that we see on Google Street View. So it's a completely different camera. It's a completely different angle. And the camera that has captured the nighttime view of the quote-unquote flashlights video is mounted high on someone's house. So it's a different position, different camera, different lens, different position than you can get into on Google Street View. So you can't overlay a video taken from one camera onto a scene that is captured by another camera. You can't do it. As I talked about in my live stream a few days ago, in the Kylie Rodney case, I was able to do that. A bunch of others did that as well. Gray Hughes did it. A bunch of people did an overlay using the fire cameras, which are kind of dotted about California and other states where they have a problem with forest fires. And this camera that captured the Prosser Reservoir and, you know, the lights from the vehicles driving around, and then unfortunately Kylie going the wrong way and driving into Prosser Reservoir, you were able to get a daytime view from that exact same camera. So the exact camera in exactly the same position, you were able to get the daytime view, and then you could overlay the nighttime view onto it because it's exactly the same camera in the same position. You know, the daytime and the nighttime are taken hours apart. So you're able to take a screenshot of the daytime view and then overlay the nighttime video onto it. So you're able to see what the scene actually looks like, and there you can pinpoint where the lights, the vehicles are actually positioned. There's no guesswork, but you can do it absolutely because it's the same camera. Any overlay video that's done using any scene taken from two different cameras, it's inaccurate. So the basic premise of everything Mob Crew has done is wrong, and it's not to say that Mob Crew, you know, it's not slight on Mob Crew. It's not a, you know, I'm got nothing personal against him at all. It's just that the theory that he's proposing and the things that he's coming out with, it's fundamentally flawed. So I did all that the other day. So unfortunately, that's my view on it. Okay, so let's talk about this reward. So, as we know, there's the FBI, who on the kind of to mark the 6 months, the FBI. This is the FBI's poster. The FBI announced that they were putting forward a $50,000 reward. Now, there's a journalist, someone called Nick the Hat. Now, I don't know this guy. I heard about him. He did the Danilo Cavalcante case. But he, personally, has offered an additional $25,000. So I think this is the thing that sparked the trend of Sebastian Rogers. So this is Nick the Hat, seeking information regarding the whereabouts of Sebastian Rogers, age 16. He's not, he's age 15. He's not 16 until December. The FBI is offering a reward of $50,000. I will add an additional $25,000 for information leading to Sebastian or evidence of his whereabouts, which makes it $75,000 in total. So, yeah. Covering this situation in the coming days. Yeah, Nick was out there with JLR in the Cavalcante case, yeah. That's where I know the name from. Do we think they'll ever find Sebastian? Possibly. But every day, every week, every month that goes by, it becomes less and less likely. But of course, it does depend on why Sebastian went missing in the first place. You know, you hear about cases of young people going missing and they turn up years later. So there's always that possibility, but unfortunately, those cases are in the minority. Now, if Sebastian did, walk away of his own volition and sadly had an accident and died out there in the woods somewhere, then it's possible his body or his remains will be found, but it will be, someone coming across him on maybe on their property that they don't walk on very often, or a hunter or something like that. But, it can take years. But it depends. It depends. I'm a lot less certain about cases that go on this long than I used to be. I used to be more how would I say this? I used to be more confident. I used to be more optimistic, I think is the word. I used to be more optimistic about missing persons than I am now. Like if somebody's not found within the first month, I don't think it's likely that they will be found. But people are found. People are found, and usually, if it's remains that are found, it's not an organised search that finds them. After all this time, they're found, by a hunter or by someone, walking along, and the dog picks up a bone or something. Those are the types of situation where remains get come across. I think he's close by in a cave. So do I. I think he's close by. I think he's within a mile of his home. 2 miles, tops. I do. And I always, when talking about cases like this, I always bring up the case of Bryn Hargreaves from West Virginia. Bryn Hargreaves was just about 350 yards away from his home. I've done several videos on Bryn Hargreaves, but he was the man who just walked away from his life. We don't know why he walked away. Like, he left his door unlocked, he left his shower running, and very mysterious circumstances, you know, and it led his family to believe that he'd been abducted. They had tons of searches, like they had private investigators out there, they had dog teams out there, and everybody missed him. Everybody missed him. And sadly, 14 months later, his remains were found down a small ravine, found accidentally by 2 deer hunters. And as the crow flies, it's about 350 yards away from his front door. And everybody had missed him. So, I think potentially, if Sebastian did die on the day that he went missing, I think he is close to home. But I'm open to the possibility that there was some kind of abduction. I'm open to that. But the cops don't think so. The cops don't think so. So I'm going to play some clips from the early days of this case. Kind of, at this point, the point I'm going to go to, the case was starting to bring in, you know, elements of the circus, but nothing like it is now. Nothing like it is now. But you can understand why people enjoy talking about the drama. You can understand it because it's salacious. You know, Bullhorn Betty being arrested, oh, that's very salacious. It's interesting to people. I don't know why people like that kind of thing. But the creators that cover it, you know, they get 1,000+ people in the chats every single day. So why wouldn't they continue to talk about it? Because it's profitable. Sorry to be blunt, but it is. It's profitable. It just doesn't interest me. I could get 1,000 people in my chat if I started to talk about the drama, but I don't want to. I just don't want to. I mean, how many people are in? Oh, I've got 500 people watching. That's not too bad. It's lucrative. It is, Broken Goth Doll. And look, I make money off YouTube. I'm not against people making money. I'm really not against people making money. But the conversations just don't interest me. The drama, or the creator versus creator, doesn't interest me. It never has. So, what can you do? You're wondering if Mom and Seth coordinated something due to stepdad's aggressive behaviour. I honestly don't think so, because Chris had been working away since early February, so he'd not even been there. And then Sebastian was due to go and live with Seth anyway. So both Seth and Chris wanted Sebastian to go and live at Seth's. So why would Katie and Seth coordinate something when that was what was going to happen anyway? And Katie was the one who didn't want him to go and live at Seth's. So no, I don't think so. I don't think that happened. Because according to Seth's own words, now I don't actually have this video, the clip where Seth said this. I don't have it, but it's out there that Seth said that Sebastian was meant to go and live with him a year previous, like the school year previous. But Seth, in his own words, gave Sebastian one more chance to correct his behaviour. The reason why he was allegedly going living at Seth's was because of his behaviour issues. So if Seth really, really believed that Sebastian was in danger, he had the permission to take Sebastian the year previous. But it was Seth that chose not to leave him at Katie's for one more year, to give Sebastian another chance to correct his behavior. But Sebastian didn't want to go and live at Seth's. And the reason why Sebastian didn't want to go and live at Seth's, again, this is Seth's own words, was because Sebastian did not want to do online school. That Sebastian enjoyed the school that he went to, Beach High School. He enjoyed going to school. So Sebastian would get on the bus at like 7:30, do his school day, come home about 3:30, and then he'd spend his evening with Katie. Like, Sebastian stayed on his own, so he was able to be on his own. He was able to look after himself until Katie got home, and then they'd spend the evening together. And Katie did not want Sebastian to go and live at Seth's. It was Seth and Chris who'd coordinated this move. And Sebastian did not want to go and live at Seth's because he didn't want to do online school. And I understand exactly why Sebastian wouldn't want to do online school, because he enjoyed he wanted friends. He wanted friends. That's what he wanted. You know, he wasn't very socially adept, so he found it difficult to make friends. So he tried. He tried to make friends, and, just going to school on a day-by-day basis would help him with that, would help him with his social skills. So he didn't want to do online school. And again, we've heard from Seth's own mouth that when Seth was working, he worked nights, so Sebastian would be on his own the whole night. So Sebastian would be on his own from 6 p.m. all night until the following morning, because he would do Seth would do 12-hour shifts. I think it's 7 till 7. So it's an hour from Seth's house to where he worked, almost an hour. So Seth would have to leave at like 6 p.m. to be there for 7, and then he'd work till 7 in the morning, and then it would be another hour back, so 8 a.m. So Sebastian would be on his own the whole night, and then Seth would have to sleep. So Seth would come in, go to bed. Sebastian would be left on his own again and in charge of himself while he did online school. And this is a kid that has, maybe impulse issues, because lots of autistic kids do have impulse issues. So how would Sebastian learn social skills? Because he would just be on his own the whole time. And maybe Sebastian recognized that, and that's why he didn't want to go and live at Seth. Not that he didn't love Seth, not that he didn't want to visit Seth, but he didn't want to do online school. So, no, in answer to that question, I don't think it was Seth and Katie that coordinated Sebastian's disappearance at all. So that's just my view. Anyway, I'm going to go to about 6 weeks after Sebastian went missing. Nick Barris had an interview. Nick Barris from News Channel 5 Nashville had an interview with the district attorney. So this was when it seems so long ago now. It seems so long ago. But this was kind of the beginning. There was a lot of people blaming Chris and Katie at this time. I think Seth was still a hero at this time. but there was lots of talk about Sebastian being murdered or, something happening in the home. So Nick Berris, the journalist from News Channel 5 Nashville, got some quotes from the district attorney about foul play. So I'm going to play this. Now, this is just a screen recording. I don't have the links to the originals because these are just things, like I said, the Twitter trend inspired me to go and look at some of the old clips that I'd saved. So these are things that I've just saved. So I don't have the links to any of these that I'm going to play. But this was from News Channel 5, Nashville. All right. I'll turn the sound up a little bit.
Authorities say they will not rule out foul play, but they will not say that there is a criminal investigation into the Sebastian Rogers case. Why not? Well, I talked to District Attorney Ray Whitley about what it might take to perhaps make an arrest. Sebastian disappeared from his Hendersonville home more than 6 weeks ago. Since then, professionals and volunteers searching for the 15-year-old have found nothing, no trace. Have you found evidence of Sebastian yourself when you've been out there?
No.
So how does a teen with autism walking from a home barefoot in the middle of the night just with a flashlight disappear? Experts say children rarely simply vanish completely on their own. Could others be involved in Sebastian's case?
We have not cleared anyone, but we have absolutely no evidence to support foul play.
Though they certainly do have theories. So what would it take to call this now a criminal investigation? General Whitley tells me there has to be something, physical evidence, blood, Sebastian's clothing, a flashlight, or security video, or an eyewitness implicating someone. But at this point, the simple fact is there's nothing. But that's not to say that can't change. And General Whitley says he stays in contact with authorities, ready to prosecute if it does. Sumner County EMA Director Ken Widener says his crews are on call 24/7, ready to go when investigators contact them with new leads on potential evidence.
And anytime the sheriff's office indicates or TBI indicates where you've got an area of interest that we need to search, we're ready to go.
You can see the sophisticated mapping system showing the ground they've covered. Sadly, to date, no confirmed sightings and no indication whatsoever of what happened to Sebastian. Authorities still assume that Sebastian is alive and that he will be found safe. If that's not the case, then his body must be found. Without it or any other physical evidence, we may never know what happened to the teen. Nick Berris, News Channel 5.
Okay. And that was 6 weeks into the case. We're now 6 months into the case. And we can't say anything further about his disappearance. We have nothing. But Ray Whitley, the district attorney, said, there's no signs, no evidence of foul play. Does the absence of evidence mean that there was no foul play? No, not necessarily. However, where is that evidence? If there was nothing untoward found in the house, the security videos, they've been able to, according to the TBI, they've been able to account for all the vehicles that were in that area that morning. Now, one thing I would like to know is how far out was that area? That they've said they've accounted for all of the vehicles that moved around the area. Was that just the immediate area? Was that just, Stafford, Kelling Lane, Honeysuckle, Willow Bend, that immediate neighbourhood? Because, in my opinion, the only way for Sebastian to have been taken out by car would have been walking him away from that neighbourhood, which could possibly have happened. Otherwise, the vehicles would have been spotted. The vehicle that abducted him would have been spotted. But there's nothing. There's no evidence at all. Now, the fact that he went out barefoot, a lot of people are basing there must be foul play, because why would he be barefoot? You know, why would he go walking barefoot? Well, a lot of people actually do enjoy walking barefoot. However, I've said this right from the beginning. I think Sebastian had shoes. I think he had a pair of shoes that his parents weren't aware of. I really do. I think he had a pair of shoes, and I think he took his little flashlight because that's what he did. And I haven't changed. My opinion hasn't changed from those early days. I'm not discounting the possibility of an abduction, but I've not seen any evidence of it, and neither have the cops. Nick Barris does periodically, I mean semi-regularly. Oh, thank you, me being Moose, for the £5. That's very kind. Half an hour late. That's all right. That's all right. Sebastian is a bright, emotional boy, capable of running off with no thought to consequences, and I believe he had shoes in the way. I do. Because it was his job to take out the trash. So what if Katie was clearing out his old shoes? Like, she says she knows exactly how many pairs of shoes he had. Now, if Katie had done something, why would she have made that story up? Because that story sounds more incriminating. Why didn't she just say, you know, like, because we don't know, the cops didn't know how many pairs of shoes Sebastian had. So if Katie wanted to make up a story, like to cover up him being murdered or something, why did she say that he went out barefoot? Because that makes it more incredible. It makes it less likely. But I think, personally, that Sebastian saw some shoes in the trash that he liked. You know, we all have that favorite pair of shoes, don't we? You know, that are comfortable. And Sebastian took them out of the trash and knew his mother had thrown them away, so he hid them. And then when he went wandering out and about on his own, which he had perfect right to do, he's 15 years old, why couldn't he just go for a walk in the neighbourhood? We know that he did, from two neighbours. Two neighbours have said, and this was on the dispatch audio, two neighbours have said that they'd seen Sebastian out in the neighbourhood, like walking out around and about, which is fine. So maybe when Sebastian went walking around and about, he took his favourite pair of shoes with him. That's what I think. Anyway, Nick Barris does quite regularly, semi-regularly, just update, you know, and just say no further news, but I am keeping in touch with people. And this is 4 days ago, and this is a short quote from Chris and Katie. They did a short update. So Nick says here, the $50,000 reward and a statement from Sebastian Rogers' mother and stepfather. 15-year-old with autism disappeared from his Hendersonville TN home more than 6 months ago. This week, the FBI announced a $50,000 reward for information that leads to Sebastian. Today, Sebastian's mother, Katie, and stepfather, Chris, reached out to me with this statement. This is what they wanted Nick to put out. We first would like to thank the FBI for this gracious reward offer of $50,000 to benefit the case of our missing son, Sebastian Rogers. We pray that with this reward, it will bring some useful tips and or leads that will result in the safe return of Sebastian to his home in Hendersonville. We would also like to say thank you to Sumner County Sheriff's Office, TBI, and the supportive public for continuous efforts being made to bring Sebastian home safe and sound. Your tireless efforts are acknowledged and greatly appreciated. Sebastian, if you hear this, just know that all of your family loves and misses you, and we can't wait to have you home safe and sound. Investigators continue to consider all options. That includes the possibility that Sebastian is a victim of foul play. But now, in the absence of any credible leads, baseless rumours and theories continue to run rampant on social media. Hey, everyone is entitled to their opinion. Many point to the mother and stepfather, but that means nothing without proof. I deal in facts, and the simple fact is this. Investigators, Sumner County Sheriff's detectives, TBI and FBI say at this time there is absolutely no evidence of foul play, and there is no evidence that Sebastian's mother, stepfather, or biological father, Seth, had anything to do with his disappearance. None. If evidence surfaces changing that, I'll be amongst the first to tell you. I'm in constant touch with District Attorney Ray Whitley. He tells me the moment there is evidence to charge someone, he will. But there is nothing at this time. Hopefully, the reward money will lead to a tip that breaks the case. Like you, I just hope and pray Sebastian is found. Tips to be called in to 1-800-TBI find. Okay, so that $50,000 reward has now been increased to $75,000. 50,000 from the FBI and an additional 25,000 from journalist Nick the Hat. Do I think rewards are helpful? I mean, look, rewards have in the past brought, people out of the woodwork, but I talked about in a video the other day, I'm never really that confident about rewards. I don't think a reward will break the case if someone isn't prepared to talk. Because if you've been holding on to information for the last 6 months, you've been holding on to that information for a reason. So will $75,000 change your mind? Maybe, but then maybe you'll fear coming forward at this late stage. Maybe you'll fear that you'll be prosecuted for withholding information, which is a very valid fear. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look, it's positive. I'm not saying it isn't positive. It is positive. But will it help? And the FBI offering the reward, the $50,000 in the first place, kind of leads me to believe that they don't have anything. And this is like a last-ditched effort to get information. But again, I don't know. All right, I've got a... Now, at the time that, like 6 weeks in, when Nick Barris made that little piece, and we had comment from Ray Whitley, District Attorney, we had comment from Ken Widener from the EMA, and there was a little quote there that included from Eric Craddock, who's the Deputy Sheriff in Hendersonville, Sumner County Sheriff's Office. Seth was a hero. I mean, look, I thought so too. Everybody got behind Seth. There was very few people who were anti-Seth. There were a few, like early on in the case, there were a few people who, were anti-Seth. But as time went by, Seth's behavior became more and more problematic. I don't know whether you'll agree with me or not, but I started to see Seth in a completely different light. That doesn't mean to say that I think he was involved or that he had anything to do with Sebastian's disappearance. I don't think he did. But his behavior became very problematic. And I think it's Seth. If we want to, put the label on one person, I think it's Seth that has created the circus. Not meaning to, unwittingly, but I think it's Seth that's created the circus. And, the fact that he fired 2 PIs, the fact that he went to war with Chris and Katie, the fact that he brought in TikTok Tony, need I say more? TikTok Tony himself is problematic. He is a problem. So bringing in Tony, supposedly to, calm Seth down, to stop Seth running his mouth, I can't see the logic. Dick Talk Phony. That's funny. You think Chris is the circus? Who was that? Jay. You think Chris is the circus? Yeah, but Chris hasn't commented on YouTube for months now. When was the last time Chris went on social media? When? I've no doubt that, you know, that Seth isn't grieving. Seth is grieving, yeah. But it doesn't excuse his outbursts. In my opinion, it doesn't excuse his outbursts. Yeah, I agree with you. See something, say something. Watch the interview where Seth gets emotional, reflecting on his wedding day to Katie. Then watch how fast he changes to bitterness. These types don't ever move on. I think a lot of Seth's anger is because he's still in love with Katie and he can't get over her. So, you know, love and hate, very close bedfellows. When's the last time Seth has done an interview on YouTube? It's been a while for all of them. It has been a while for all of them, yeah. But yeah, Chris was a problem. In the very early days, Chris was the problem. Chris was the problem because he was going on Facebook arguing with people. Like he was trying to, I think in his mind, he was doing a Don Wells. Like he was trying to set the record straight. He ended up in arguments. He ended up making himself look foolish. He ended up looking like he was guilty. He really did in those very, very, very early days. And then he was on YouTube and yeah, it wasn't helpful. Wasn't helpful at all. But he learned by his mistakes and he's kept off social media. And the few times that him and Katie do comment, they do it via the news, which I think is positive. I think, you know, sending this message for Nick Berris to share is positive. That's the way to do it. At this stage, that's the way to do it. But as Chris pulled back from social media, Seth took over. And Seth became the problem. And I think it was that early anger by Chris that fired people up. And then when Seth took over, people who were slating Chris but putting Seth on a pedestal as a hero, like searching for his son and all that. And I did as well. I thought it was great that Seth was out there, you know, boots on the ground, getting searchers, you know, just getting people together. But those people now have turned on Seth. JLR has turned on Seth. So in this morning's little flurry of Twitter posts that I went through, some of them were from yesterday that I found from JLR. Oh, Dolly Vision. Dolly Vision had a heart attack. Doesn't look a well man at all. But best wishes to Dolly Vision. Horrendous. I was talking about Mob Crew. All right, let's go down a bit. So from yesterday. JLR put some posts up. Oh dear. JLR, you really need to find another hobby at this point. Your personal vendetta against Seth is not helping find Sebastian Rogers. It's only stirring up drama and leading to spread of misinformation. Look, I think Seth has been his own worst enemy, honestly. I really do. But here we've got JLR here from yesterday. Seth Rogers insists the mysterious 3:30 a.m. lights were a trash truck.
Other news outlets were reporting that there were lights seen in the backyard that were caught on camera by a neighbor's video. Is that true?
No. What that was a trash truck. Went through, picked up trash, and when it left, of course, it went faster. It didn't have to stop to pick up trash. That's just false information provided by a particular person.
Other news outlets were reporting that there were...
The other person was Nick Barris. Seth, for whatever reason, doesn't like Nick Barris. For whatever reason. I don't remember why. But okay, let's talk about the lights just briefly, just because of this clip. Now, I know that JLR and others have spoken to neighbours who have said, no, the lights from that video are not a trash truck. However, I don't know whether they were from a trash truck. I don't know. However, I keep saying however. I don't know for sure, but both Seth and Katie and Chris were told by law enforcement that those lights were a trash truck. The neighbours came out and said it's not a trash truck because the trash is not picked up at 3:30 in the AM. However, the reason why we think that the lights took place at something past 3 was because of the broken clock on the neighbour's surveillance video. So this is the video that I went through the other day on my live stream. So we're not going to completely go over all this again, but I just want to show the clock. This clock is stuck. As this video plays, this clock does not move. It's stuck at 3:11:04. So 3:11 AM, 4 seconds. It's stuck. Watch. It's completely stuck. As the video plays, a light comes on, so we know this is the video's actually playing. This strange light comes on, which could be from a neighbour's vehicle or mysterious vehicle. Okay. But the lights that are on the flashlights video that Nick Barris showed are right here in the corner. Like, it's literally this. That's what Nick Barris showed. That much. That much. Now, a jammer was mentioned when it first came out. Yeah, well, people are still talking about a jammer. What would a jammer do? What would a jammer do? Because it didn't stop the video, did it? Because this video is here. This video recorded. Don't know if this is live. Yes, this is live. Jam the Wi-Fi. Well, it didn't, did it? Because this video recorded. All right. So, no. For that reason, a jammer wasn't used. Also, a jammer wasn't used because this clock has been stopped for over a year. Could have been hardwired. Okay, so jamming someone's Wi-Fi isn't going to stop a security camera recording. All right. This clock has been stopped for over a year. How do I know that? Because of the date. 24/2/23. 24th of February, 2023. Now, some people have come into my comments and said I'm reading the date the wrong way around. That this is the year, then the month, then the day. Well, if it is, that's a very non-standard way of recording a date. Because either you record the day, the month, the year, or more likely in America, you would record the month, the day, the year. But whether you are recording it the way that we do in the UK, the day, the month, the year, or whether for whatever reason this system appears to be day, month, year. But even if it was month, day, year, the year still comes, like the standard way to write a date is with the year at the end. So we've got 24th of February 2023 at 3:11 and 4 seconds. That clock stopped. So that clock had been stopped, been stationary, been not working for over a year. Why? Who knows? So saying that a jammer was used, why? To jam someone's Wi-Fi, why? Because it won't stop a security camera recording. So even if someone used a Wi-Fi jammer, it's not stopped the security cameras recording. And we know that other security cameras did record because we have the cops, in their own words, during the dispatch audio from the 26th of February, going actually looking at people's cameras. And we know that the FBI did tests on those cameras. We know those cameras were working. All right. So that puts paid to that theory. I think burglars have used jammers to stop recording, but this wasn't a jammer. Well, whatever, wasn't a jammer because this recorded. This video was recording. We know this video was recording because things are moving. A light comes on there. So even if someone tried to use a jammer, it didn't work. And this is a pivotal camera. This is one of the cameras that would have caught a vehicle coming out of Stafford Court, because this is right on the corner. I'll show you which camera this is. You know all this if you've followed the case. But the camera is this one right here. There's the camera. Boom. So it would have captured the lights. You may not have been able to tell what vehicle it was, but it would have captured the lights coming out. And probably a shadow. Like if they turn the lights off, probably a shadow or something. But it would have caught a vehicle coming out of Stafford Court. And there's only one way a vehicle can come out of Stafford Court. Can't go the other way because there's houses in the way. You can't go that way because of these houses. I mean, all right, you could go across their backyard if you wanted, but I don't think so. So, and then these two cameras, there's two cameras right here. I can't remember which houses they're on, but there's two cameras here. So it would have caught any car coming out of Kelling as well. This is Kelling Lane. So it's what I was saying earlier, that if somebody abducted Sebastian, they'd have had to park away from the neighbourhood. And that's why I would like to know, like, because the TBI said that they've tracked every vehicle. They've been able to account for every vehicle in the area, but how far an area did they go out? Like, I'm assuming that they just, they've tracked every vehicle out of Stafford, Kelling, Willow Bend, Honeysuckle maybe. But if somebody had met Sebastian on the construction site and walked up here, had a car parked on Ward Lane, the chances are they'd be able to get away without being seen. but that would have taken some planning. They'd have had to be very, they'd have had to have it all planned out. Is it possible? Of course it is. Of course it is. But anyway, we won't know. We won't know until Sebastian's found. I mean, this is a good point that JLR brings up here. This is one of the reasons why I lost faith in what Seth was saying. That he was saying that, Sebastian couldn't look after himself, that he had no concept of time, that he wasn't able to, basically wasn't able to plan to run away or anything like that. So if we listen to this clip, if you listen to what Seth,
I've had him set timers on his phone so that he remembers that, hey, it's 7 o'clock at night. I need to take my medicine. I mean, he doesn't really have a concept of time except for, he's got to, when he gets woken up in the morning at his mom's, normally around 6 o'clock, he's got an hour to get up, get ready, eat his food, and be out there to catch the bus between 7:10 and 7:20. Then he goes to school. He gets out of school at 3 o'clock, and I normally call him about 3:30. But when he's here and it's a weekend or something, there's no time. I've had him set timers on his phone so that.
So when he's there, when he's at Seth's, there's no time. He's got no concept of time. But yet Seth, in other interviews, has said that Sebastian is able to stay on his own all night, and then Seth rings him when it's time for him to go to bed. But there's no way for Seth to know whether Sebastian actually went to bed at the time that he was supposed to. This is another reason why I think it would be a really bad idea for Sebastian to go and live at Seth's, because it will be left to his own devices all night. He could get up to all sorts, get himself into all sorts of trouble, and nobody would be any the wiser. It is a pretty miserable, lonely life for a child, yeah. It absolutely would be, especially if you're doing online school. And at weekend, you don't necessarily have a sense of time at the weekend. Like, if you're an adult and you work in the week, at weekend, you just chill out and you're not watching the clock, are you? And yeah, exactly, Kayla. I call that being a teenager. Absolutely. Teenagers are, if they've not got to be anywhere, why would they be clock watching? Why would anybody be clock watching? No one clock watches if you don't actually have to be anywhere. So these kind of interviews make me mad at Seth, because it portrays Sebastian as being, mentally defective or younger than he actually was. Now, we do know that in some ways he was, like, his mental state was younger than his chronological age. But that was pertaining to things like social skills. That was where he was behind in. He was actually very intelligent. He could play chess. He could play games. He could stay by himself. So, no. It would fun, Sebastian, if you were in Seth at prison. Well, that's what he said he was doing. Like, when Sebastian was staying at his and he had to work, he would call Sebastian from the prison or the jail when it was his bedtime. So he was. That's what he was doing. You clock watch, Devil Doll. Why? I hate clock watching. I hate it. Like, I think it comes from the years and years and years where I had to clock watch at work. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. There were some other comments I wanted to talk about, but I've got some clips I want to play. So those are ones that JLR shared, and JLR was very pro Seth in the beginning, wasn't he? And now he's changed his mind a little bit, and it's not because Seth is guilty. I think I shared JLR's sentiments here that Seth has been problematic. Did Sebastian play at being a ninja, ruse, etc.? Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know if he played on ruse. I mean, some teenagers play on ruse. They're all guilty of not being there for Sebastian. Well, no, Seth wasn't there for him. But, you know, look, it's the working parents, aren't they? That you got to work. You got to work. So we'd have more to say about them if, you know, all three of them were just sitting at home, not working, you know, claiming benefits. We'd all have something to say about that. So, you know, every working parent has to juggle earning money, putting the time in at work, but also looking after your kid. It's not an easy job. It's definitely not an easy job. And at 15, I think, you know, unless you were really, really mentally impaired or very physically impaired, at 15, I think you can spend some time on your own. At 15, I wouldn't want to leave a child all night on their own. But certainly at 15, I would leave mine. Let's say they came home from school. Kyle used to get in about 10 to 4, maybe. And I wouldn't be home till maybe 5:30. So Kyle came in on his own and, you know, played on his games or whatever. So that's fine. I have no problem with that. And that seemed to be what Katie was doing. So Sebastian would come home and then Katie would come home a bit later. So, and Seth would ring Sebastian at 3:30. So that seemed to be a good setup. You know, Sebastian comes in, gets home off the bus. His dad rings him, makes sure he's doing his homework, and then a couple of hours later, his mother comes home. So that seems to be a good system. But Chris wasn't there. Chris wasn't there because, like, for weeks on end, he was working 3.5 hours away in Memphis. So Chris wasn't, you know, a hands-on parent, really, of Sebastian. So I think probably Chris is the one that, you know, had the least, you know, day-to-day experience with Sebastian. How many parents set up a GoFundMe 3 days after? I know. A lot of people had a problem with that, especially as they all had agreed that they weren't going to do a GoFundMe. They didn't need to do a GoFundMe. But yeah, it was Seth's sister that set it up. The date that Nina spoke out, I don't know. And that was fairly early on. That was on Trevor's channel, wasn't it? Did Trev? I think Trev may have taken down the videos. Because Trev time. Here's Trev time. Yeah, there's no videos. Leaving YouTube. Yeah, he's taking all his videos down. He's just got his community wall up. So I don't know, in answer to your question. I don't know when Nina's interview was. There are a few more comments that I wanted to get to. Could have helped plan it. Why though? Why would he when Sebastian was due to go and live with him? I don't. That's the thing that stops me thinking that's a viable theory. Why would you incriminate yourself by taking part in a kidnap or an abduction when your kid's going to be going living with you in a couple of months anyway? I don't really understand. Yeah, even though it probably, it wasn't intended to be a punishment, like Seth maybe had, in his mind, had good reasons why Sebastian was to do online school, but Sebastian wouldn't have seen it that way, would he? Yeah. Just like I do. You're entitled to an opinion. If you're a YouTube creator, you know, that are reporting on cases, you're entitled to your own personal opinion. And I think JLR is very good at that. You know, saying in my opinion and allegedly and that kind of stuff. Yeah. You might need reminders. If you've got to take medication at a certain time, or you've got to go out at a certain time, you might put an alarm on your phone to remind you. Otherwise, you're just constantly clock watching. So there are a couple more comments. I should learn to start starring. I know some creators star comments and then they can go back to them easily. And I've never remembered to do that. He told me he thought it was 6 a.m. Yeah, I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I mean, look, I don't know your 13-year-old, but maybe, you know, maybe if you've gone to sleep and you've woken up and you think it's like morning now, maybe, possibly. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, I've got some clips here. Which one shall I play first? Oh, this one. Now, this one, for me, was the point where I said no to Seth. This one. This was this interview on Justin, what's his name? Justin on TikTok. Oh, I'm going to have to share a different way to play this. Because it's a MOV file. Right. And again, these are just screen recordings that I've taken, so I don't have the links for these anymore. But this was Justin on TikTok's channel. We got 5 gifted memberships here. Shelley, thank you so much. Shelley has gifted 5 memberships. Who have we got here? We have got Eric, Sweet, Sativa, Lisa, Truth Reigns, and Vicky. Welcome. You get a month's free membership courtesy of Shelley W. Thank you so much. Go and check out the members area. There's a bunch of videos and stuff. I put a brand new puppy video up the other day. So go and check that out. Nina interview was March the 30th. Okay. I'll believe you. I've nowhere to correct you if you're wrong. But it was fairly early on. So that does sound about right. So about a month into the case. So this was the point where I thought, Seth, what are you doing? What are you doing, son? This was the point. This is Justin on TikTok. And I screen recorded this and it goes like wonky. So you can hear them, but half of the screen's cut off. I don't know why. I think what I must have done is turn my phone, like the orientation of my phone changed. I don't know what happened, but you can hear it just fine. So this is Justin on TikTok, Seth's interview.
They're not parents at all. And I want to know what happened to my son. That he deserves and that he needs so that he can get over the traumatic incident that has happened to him. This should have never happened underneath their watch to begin with. That's why Chris doesn't want my son around his daughter. Because he's scared that my son is going to do the same thing that was done to him under his watch. And Chris Proudfoot, if you're listening to this, you can't hold that over my head. I told you. You're going to piss me the fuck off. And I don't give a fuck who knows. It's your fault. It's your and your wife's fault.
That for me was like, what, Seth, what are you doing? And this was the point where he said that Sebastian had been essayed when he was, I think he said 8 years old, by an older kid. And it was on Katie's watch. So he was saying it's the second time that something's happened on Katie's watch. And I thought, oh, Seth, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because at that, what if Sebastian comes home? What if Sebastian comes home one day and knows that all of his personal information about his childhood trauma is out there on the internet? And look, I'm not saying Chris is a great parent either. I'm not saying Chris is a great parent, because I don't agree with what Chris came out and said, that he hit Sebastian with a belt. I don't agree with that either. And the little snide remarks that Chris made about Sebastian, don't like that at all. At all. But when the line in the sand got crossed during that interview on Justin on TikTok. In my opinion, that's where the line got crossed for me. That you don't share someone else's trauma just because you're mad, just because you're angry. And yes, he's grieving. He's grieving. I know he's grieving. But it does not give you the excuse to share someone else's trauma just because you yourself are upset. That's just my opinion. All right. This is Court TV. This is... No, it's not. What is it? This is News Nation. This is when Seth was on News Nation with Brian Entin. And once again, I'm going to have to share. I need to just change these file types and then I can... It's annoying. Hold on. Okay. This is with Brian Entin on News Nation.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make a lot of
sense.
It doesn't
seem
to
make a lot of sense.
His shoes were still by the front door. His switch was there. His phone was in the kitchen. It just didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and I still can't figure it out. I've been looking everywhere. Been handing out flyers.
Why?
It doesn't make a lot of sense. His car, his shoes are still by the front door. Out to occasion they to sit there and see if they'll help me.
Hold on. We've got
They
two.
answered my call.
Yeah, one thing I couldn't understand is why
Wait.
they were telling people not to search at one point. I mean,
What's
the
going
shift went
on?
to the landfill. It was this investigation, and they're telling people not to search. I couldn't make sense of that. I mean, it made me wonder, do you have any indication that investigators may know that something bad happened here?
They haven't told me anything, and they told people
Why is
not
it?
to search.
Why can't I stop it?
I can't just sit around.
Behave.
I've got to find my son.
Yeah, I understand. I would be doing the same exact thing as you, and I think everybody around America would be, and their hearts go out to you. Have you talked to Sebastian's mom, stepdad?
I don't understand.
When
Where's
they
it
said,
playing
have
from?
you been able to give any more information?
Where's it playing from?
For at least 2 weeks. They're not talking to me.
There are reports that they have packed up an RV and left the house that Sebastian
What the
disappeared
hell?
from. Any idea why they would do that?
Where's it playing from?
I have no information. They weren't talking to me, so I was out here trying to find my son.
He's a spirit box
Do
session.
you feel that they were taking good care of him?
Where the hell is it playing from?
I've got information from podcasts that they were showing that horrified me.
I don't understand, guys. I've been jammered. Yeah, I have.
I'm sorry, I know this is upsetting, but
Because that's the file.
They were going on podcasts, and it was like,
And there we go. Yay! It was playing from the thumbnail of that file. It was playing from the thumbnail. That's so funny. That's so funny. Right, we'll start that again. So this is Chris with, this is Seth with Brian Enton. All right, we'll start that again. Okay. Dear me. Dear me. Right, I must have clicked it twice and then whatever. Whatever. There's an echo. Yeah, it was. Because I couldn't understand where it was coming from. All right. We'll play that again without the stress. This is a couple of minutes, 3 minutes. Seth talking to Brian Enton.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
it doesn't make a lot of sense. His shoes are still by the front door. His switch was there. His phone was in the kitchen. It just didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I still can't figure it out. I've been looking everywhere, been handing out flyers, been just trying to keep up hope. And I've reached out to United Cajun Agent to sit there and see if they will help me. And they answered my call.
Yeah, one thing I could.
So this was very early on. Do you remember the United Cajun Navy? Do you remember that drama? Now, I was still supporting Seth at that time. I was still thinking, no, look, the United Cajun Navy might not be the most reputable organization, but at least Seth is trying. At least he's trying. But yeah, it was starting to descend. The United Cajun Navy. That seems so long ago now. Yeah. I mean, look, to be honest, how much searching did Seth actually do? Like on his own, how much searching did he actually do? Now, that doesn't mean to say that he didn't help, because he got people together. He got people to turn up to search. We do know that. And he got people to hand out flyers. And just the fact that Seth was there, organizing it, was a good thing. A real good thing. Where they actually searched, though, I don't need to know the exact locations, but I don't think people are searched in the right areas. Yeah, then he told everyone to F off. Yes, he did. He absolutely did tell everyone to F off. I think I might even have that clip. I do. This was where he told everyone to F off. Now, this was at a vigil. I'll come back to this News Nation one in a minute. This was at a vigil. And Chris went to see him. And then Seth said, oh, we're all working together now. We're all going to work together now. And you can all F off. This was that clip.
It's about finding Sebastian. Me and Chris are putting our differences aside. It's not about our egos. It's about finding Sebastian. Me, Chris, and Katie will begin working together. And if everybody else could just fuck off and put your egos aside, help us find our son. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers is the goal of this shit. If you can't get on that, get the. Me and Chris are putting our different.
Yeah. So, look, he basically, I don't think he meant F off, full stop. I think he meant people just need to stop interfering. But then within hours of this, he was on a YouTube channel slagging off Chris and Katie. And I can't remember whose channel that was. I don't know whether it was Smiley's or it was another one, but I don't have the clip. I wish I'd saved the clip that hours later after this, he went on to a YouTube channel slagging Chris and Katie, which I just thought was absolutely bizarre. So I can understand why Chris and Katie have just kept out of it all. I absolutely like. I can't imagine. I can't imagine how they deal with Seth. Best educating guess to Sebastian's location within a square kilometre, pretty please. All right, I'll do that in a second. Where I think he is. Clip might be on Pascal. Might be. It might be Pascal because he was going on Pascal quite a lot. Smiley's might have come after. Do you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to go through 6 months of YouTube videos and put them all in order. Because I've only got a few saved. Like if I've talked about it on a live stream, I will have played it straight from YouTube. I won't have saved the clip. Like these clips where I save them, like I screen record them and save them, I've probably put them, like edited them into a recorded video, and that's why I've got them. But yeah, so back to Brian Enton. Yeah.
Understand is why they were telling people not to search at one point. I mean, the shift went to the landfill. It was this investigation and they're telling people not to search. I couldn't make sense of that. I mean, it made me wonder, do you have any indication that investigators may know that something bad happened here?
They haven't told me anything, and they told people not to search, but I've been searching since that Monday. I can't just sit around and not do anything. I've got to find my son.
Yeah, I understand. I would be doing the same exact thing as you, and I think everybody around America would be, and their hearts go out to you. Have you talked to Sebastian's mom, stepdad? You mentioned you had that conversation when they said, he's gone missing, but have they been able to give any more information?
I haven't spoken to them for at least 2 weeks. They're not talking to me.
There are reports that they have packed up an RV and left the house that Sebastian disappeared from. Any idea why they would do that?
I have no idea. I have no information. They weren't talking to me, so I was out here trying to find my son.
Do you feel that they were taking good care of him?
I've got information from podcasts that they were showing that horrified me.
What do you mean? I mean, were they on podcasts or? I'm sorry, I know this is upsetting, but I just want to understand.
They were going on podcasts, and it was like it's supposed to be.
Women's Warrior, no, this is not a hate Seth campaign at all. Not a hate Seth campaign at all. I'm just trying to discuss how and why Sebastian's case has become such a circus. And one of the issues has been Seth. one of the issues has been Seth. I don't hate him. I understand that he's grieving, but some of the stuff that he said in the public domain will remain on the internet forever. And if Sebastian does come home, Sebastian will have to live with that information being out there forever. For that reason, I cannot support Seth anymore. I cannot support him. And it was that Justin on TikTok's live stream where he crossed the line for me. I was being very supportive of Seth. I was ignoring some of the, alarm bells that was going on in my head up to that point. And I thought, no, that's not right. That's not right. But even then I didn't voice it straight away. But Sebastian has to live with the fact that his dad has said all of these things online. That's not right. That's not right. It's not a hate campaign. It's not. But where criticism is due, I will criticize. That's, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But Seth knew the type of lifestyle that Sebastian was living. So even this interview here, where he's very calm, he's not swearing or anything like that, it's still problematic because Seth had the opportunity to take over Sebastian's care full time the year before, and he chose not to. So he can't come on to, a national news station saying that Chris and Katie's parenting was problematic because Seth had the opportunity the year before to take Sebastian away from that. And he didn't. He said Sebastian needed to improve his behavior, which leads me to believe that he was supporting Chris and Katie's type of discipline. Because if Chris and Katie's discipline wasn't good enough or was, not the right style of parenting that he wanted, Seth could have done something about it. So I think the anger that Seth shows towards Chris and Katie is because he wants Katie. Just my opinion.
Sebastian, they wanted to talk about themselves. I don't get that. We need to get Sebastian's face out to everybody. Have them looking for Sebastian. This isn't about me. It's not about his mom. It's not about his stepdad. This is about Sebastian. He needs to be found.
And I agree with that totally. Totally agree. Because Sebastian has been 100% forgotten. In all the drama, everything that's happened since, again, this was early on in the case. This was like the time when the United Cajun Navy were out there. So this is like in the first month of the case that this interview took place. And it's got a whole lot worse since then. A whole lot worse. And the only person who has suffered is Sebastian, because his case has become a circus. And it's not all Seth's fault. It absolutely is not all Seth's fault. Please don't misrepresent what I'm saying. But it has been a problem. And I'm glad that he's backed off. I'm glad that he's, he doesn't come on YouTube every night now. I'm glad about that. Like I was glad when Don Wells stopped doing it. But it does open the door, in a case where there has been a lot of drama, it opens the door for even more drama that's even less of a link to Sebastian. The drama just takes over and Sebastian gets forgotten. At least when Seth was doing interviews, at least he was talking about Sebastian. So There's no good way out of this now. Seth is still on YouTube slagging off the police now. Where? What interview? I've missed that. What channel is it on? Oh, without a doubt, Seth is suffering. Of course he is. He is grieving. He is grieving. But all of that old animosity towards Chris and Katie, because he secretly loves Katie. He wants her back. He absolutely wants her back. You can tell he's not got over her. You know, how dare she leave him? All of that old animosity has been brought back to the surface, and he is grieving. He is suffering. He absolutely is suffering. That was on JLR. What, an interview with, what, right now? An interview with Seth on JLR. But I don't know that there's a new interview with Seth. But if there's a link to the new interview, a new interview with Seth, I'll play it. Forget a chance. Google Harrison Haynes. It's a boy that is telling his story about being groomed and lured at the age of 12 from video gaming. There you go. That could have happened. Harrison Haynes. All right, let's just play the end of this and then I'll look it up.
Have they been searching at all? I mean, I know you're out there right now. Have his mom and stepdad been out there too?
I can't answer that question. I don't know. I haven't seen them. They've not been where I've been handing out flyers or searching, so I couldn't tell you what they've been doing.
I mean, Seth, you know, I'm glad we have the picture up. He looks like such a nice young man.
Oh, nothing new. Just Seth calling Craddock a douchebag. Oh, okay, that was from ages ago. I
mean, would he ever leave Barefoot? I know that's something that's perplexed some people. And even people who have children on the autism spectrum have been perplexed by that. Does that make any sense?
It doesn't. It does not make any sense. If he knew he was going to go out walking or anywhere in the yard or whatnot, he would put on socks and shoes. He had a horrible experience as a child with fire ants. He learned. It's always.
So that
seemed to make a lot of sense.
That's all I recorded. There was a little bit more to the interview. Again, Seth is talking about something that happened when Sebastian was a little boy. And it doesn't mean to say that Sebastian feels the same now, necessarily. However, I think Sebastian had shoes. I really do. I think he had shoes. Yeah, Fire Ant story is from when Sebastian was a toddler. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so where I think Sebastian, the most likely place for Sebastian to be, to answer Mike's question from earlier, is in this area. So either north or just to the west, so kind of north to northwest. That's the most likely place where I think he is. If he's got further out, then here or around here. So I can't tell you to the exact kilometre because I don't work in kilometres, but I can tell you to the mile. Actually, here's one I prepared earlier. Let me find it. If I've still got it. Yes. Okay. So these, you can't see them very well. But this is Stafford Court. And this is 5 mile radius. So that's what the searchers did in the first week. But that wasn't a search, like a grid search, like a fingertip search. This was a search for a living person. All right. So it doesn't mean to say that a 5 mile radius has been searched meticulously. So this is the reason why a deceased person could easily have been missed. That's a 10 mile radius. Now, I don't think that Sebastian's that far out, unless he has been abducted and his body deposited somewhere. So, but I think the searchers were using a 5 mile radius because a kid of 15 could easily walk 5 miles in a night, easily. No problem about it. This is a 20 mile radius. I don't think is even close to that. That's a 50 mile radius, takes you all the way backside of Nashville and beyond. But I think he is within their search radius. I think he's within their search radius. But if anything, I think he's here. North to northwest. So that's just my opinion. What about the caves that were considered unstable? Were they ever searched? I don't know. And I sincerely hope they were. But we do know that not all the caves that the searchers came across were searched because they were unstable. So they couldn't send the searchers in. They couldn't send dogs in. Oh, yeah. Sumner County spent over $1 million in the first week. I don't know how much money they spent, but yeah, they searched by air, groundwater, ponds were drained. Yes, they were. But it was searching for, in the main, a living person. Now, obviously, water searches, you're searching for someone who's drowned. But air searches and ground searches in the first week are primarily assuming that the person could still be alive, like alive and injured. But someone who's alive can make an effort to assist in their own recovery by shouting, by making, trying to flag down a helicopter, by standing in an open area. Now, if you're deceased and you're under something or in something, a helicopter or a drone ain't going to see you. If you're down a ravine, a helicopter or a drone ain't going to see you. Somebody, you have to be very, very close to that person, even for a cadaver dog to hit. Could they send a drone in the caves? Don't know. I guess it would depend on how much space there was. If a cave's completely collapsed, then they wouldn't be able to send a drone in. They wouldn't even be able to send a camera in. So my point is, this area has not been searched solely for the recovery of a deceased person. And I'm wondering whether they'll come and do the area again in the fall when it's easier. Because at the moment, like all the foliage is high, I'm wondering whether in the fall, when there's less ground coverage, that they'll come back and do it all again. But again, it's, it is about money. It absolutely is about money. But there's always that possibility that he's not there because he didn't just wander off to go for a walk and got himself into trouble. It is very possible that he could have been lured out by somebody on the internet. What makes me slightly less inclined, that at first, that was my number one theory at first. But as time's gone by, in my mind, it's less and less likely because the FBI and the Secret Service have both have been in charge of, you know, analyzing the tech. Like they've got all of Sebastian's tech. They've got his phone, his games console. So any device that he could have communicated to somebody on, they've got it, and they've got all the best tech. Now, there are certain apps that even the Secret Service can't crack. Is it possible that Sebastian was lured via one of those apps? Yes, absolutely, which is why it's my second theory. But Harrison Haynes, let's look up Harrison Haynes. So Harrison Haynes is a 12-year-old who was lured by video games. Harrison Haynes. All right. So this is Harrison Haynes. This is on ABC News. I was groomed by someone I met playing video games online. I want parents and kids to know. Harrison Haynes, now 20, said he met someone while playing video games online. So if this is this Harrison?
Coming from inside our iPhones. Everyone is told that.
That was interesting. I think, honestly, I think there's only so much.
Social media has a nearly ubiquitous presence in the lives of the most vulnerable.
I think there's only so much that apps, you know, companies, tech companies can do, though. Because, you know, they might say this app isn't to be used by anybody under the age of 18 or 15 or 13, but people can just lie about their age. So, and if a kid wants to meet friends, if a kid wants to use that platform, they'll use it. I mean, look recently from West Virginia, we've had Angel Turner, who went missing. Loads of people blaming her dad. And it turns out that she'd been lured away by this old man. Have you seen him? Have you seen the guy? Like 61-year-old old man, lured her away, 15 years old, went to meet him. He's now in custody. They found her 3 hours away, but they found her through analysing her tech. Like they found the messages and they were able to locate her. A gross old perv he was. Do you want to see him? What's his name? I have to find him. Here he is. This is him. He was the person that went and picked Angel Turner up. Why? Why she went with him? I don't know. I don't know. Robert Cobb, 61 years old. So, is it possible that Sebastian was groomed by someone online? Absolutely. Yeah, so glad she was found. Yeah. Yeah. No, she's lucky. She's safe. She'll get the help she needs now. But Sebastian wanted friends. Sebastian wanted friends. So we know that at Katie's house, he was limited to, you know, that had limited access to the internet. But he probably still was able to get on the internet. I mean, Angel Turner, her dad limited her access to the internet, but didn't realise because he wasn't technologically savvy. He didn't realize you could get on the internet via a TV. He didn't know that. He didn't know that. And kids are smarter. Kids are smarter than the parents. So is it possible that Sebastian had found a way to get on the internet at Katie's house? Yeah. But the most likely place for Seth to have got on the internet to be groomed by somebody would have been at Seth's, where he was given more freedom. He was able to access YouTube and games consoles and play on his own and talk to people on the internet. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't blame Seth for that because he's 15. This is what 15-year-olds do. But if they are looking for friends and they're intent on meeting someone, and an app tells you that you're too young for it, you'll just lie about your age. Alicia Navarro, yeah, similar case. Similar case, yeah. And she turned herself in, eventually. Like 4 years later, she'd been living with this guy that she'd met online. And she wanted to get a job and just be like a normal adult. So she turned herself in. Right, she'd been missing for 4 years. So let's have a look if there's anything more. So Harrison Haynes was 12 years old, video gamer, loving middle school student, met a stranger online through a video game. Over the next few months, Haynes said the stranger, who claimed to be 19, and whom Haynes had never met in person, became someone who Haynes considered his best friend. I'm not making friends. This gaming space was like really good space for solace for me. Now 20-year-old college student. Referring to his friendship with the teenager he knew only as a fellow video game lover, he added, we had so much fun. As virtual friendship deepened, Haynes said the teenager asked him to move their conversations from video games app to texting. From there, over the next year, Haynes said the teenager exposed him to pornography, self-harm, and created a distance between Haynes and his own family. Yeah, isolate you. So you're more likely to be dependent on them. They gaslight you. They make you dependent. Now Haynes is sharing his story to help other kids and their parents become aware of the potential dangers of technology like cell phones, social media, and texting. I think for almost every generation in America right now, everyone was told that there's going to be a stranger in a white van handing you candy, and you should just say no to that stranger. But I think for us and my generation, the danger isn't the stranger in the white van. It's not where the call is coming from. The call is coming from inside our pockets. It's coming from inside our iPhones. Haynes said he was 12 and he was struggling to make friends in school when he met this 19-year-old who he says go on to sexual agreement. In so many ways, his relationship with me, our friendship, it started so slow that it didn't feel like I was talking to a stranger. And these guys who do this play the long game. Like part of the enjoyment for them is this grooming. They enjoy the grooming element of it. Felt like I was talking to a mentor, like a brother. I definitely connected with him better than I did with my peers at school because for every time I got bullied, he was there to support me. And they choose the vulnerable ones. And Sebastian, certainly vulnerable, because he was mentally, like his mental age in terms of social skills, like his emotional intelligence was younger than 15. Haynes said that he and the teenager became friends through communicating on game platforms, but the conversation eventually moved to iMessage, an instant messaging service developed by Apple. Now, look, iMessage, there on every iPhone, every iPad, every Mac. It's just a message, it's part of your text messaging. But you couldn't stop a kid using that without banning. So it's not Apple's fault. That's not Apple's fault, is it? It's no one's fault. The only fault you can lay any sort of culpability to is the predator. Wait, we got some gifted memberships. Whoop, whoop. Let's have a look here. Oh, it's Purple AJ. Thank you so much. Once again. What a superstar. Robin, Aristocat, Carol, Little One. Who else? Just go up a bit more. Pixel, Blakesley, Christine, Moonshadow. Might be another one that I can't quite see. But thank you so much. Thank you. So you guys, monthly membership, courtesy of the utterly wonderful Purple AJ. Thank you. Unfortunately, if you ban things, they can't access things for school either. The trouble is, you ban one app, then the door is open for another app, to just be developed. And, that's why we have apps like Telegram, that can't be cracked. The messages they're not stored anywhere. They just disappear. So you can't ban children from using iMessage because they're on every computer. And if you ban children from using iMessage, they just use a different app. And these days, the predators know to use the encrypted apps. It used to be Snapchat. The predators would get you to talk on Snapchat because the Snapchat pictures weren't saved. So Snapchat changed their way that they do things. So on that platform, Haynes accessed it on his iPod, later in iPhone, said the conversations moved beyond gaming into darker territory. Now I was getting more messages at school. He slowly started exposing me to content like self-harm and images and videos and online pornography. As a 12-year-old, my first time being exposed. Haynes said the teenager would send him messages of self-harm pornography. Why is this so repetitive? During that time, Haynes said he saw a personality shift in the 19-year-old, who he said started messaging him 4 or 5 times a day instead of 2 or 3 times a week. With the exposure to porn and self-harm, Haynes said he began participating in the content on his own. He also said he kept the friendship with the teenager a secret from everyone in his life. Yeah, they say keep it a secret, and the more intense and dark the conversation becomes, the kid knows not to tell anyone because potentially it's shameful, and the perpetrator will instill that in you so you don't tell anyone. Thank you, Mike, for gifting a membership. Jazz King. Welcome, Jazz. Thank you, Mike. So, Jazz, you get a monthly membership courtesy of Mike. Thank you so much. When things started to go south with our friendship, he started exposing me to pictures and videos. And why is this so repetitive? I didn't think I could reach out to an adult anymore. Part of the issue was the taboo and the stigmatization of all of that. I didn't feel like I could reach out to a principal or a counselor or teacher or my parents because I felt like I was going to get into trouble. There you go. That's the issue. And then the predator is going to gaslight you into believing that even more. Haynes said by this time he went on, he felt like he's been trapped against a wall. Someone I really did deeply care for. I knew if I reached out for help that potentially could have put him in danger. There was this weird back and forth in my head. I wanted to get out of that for myself because now I'm self-harming and now I'm consuming pornography. Oh, dear me. After over 1 year of communicating with the teenager, Haynes said his parents discovered him using his cell phone in his room at night. At the time, Haynes said he'd gotten into practice of retrieving his phone from the downstairs where he said his parents stored it away every night as part of the rule around his usage. So his parents were, trying to limit their kids' usage. 12 years old, got a phone, limit, not allowed to use it at night. But he's getting around it. He's getting around it because he wants to, because he's enjoying this conversation. So it's not the parents' fault either. That night, Haynes said he was communicating with the teenager whom he said was threatening to take his own life. Oh, no. I cried so loud that I woke both my parents down the hall, adding that his parents went through his phone and discovered the messages with this teenager. They told me that they saw everything. They didn't seem upset. They didn't seem mad at me because like I thought they would. They sat me down and told me I was being manipulated in some sort of way. I don't think anyone in our world has the language yet for grooming. Don't think we knew that yet. Haynes said he and his parents shared what happened with the school resource officer who worked with them to report it to the police. A spokesperson for Hanover County Sheriff's Office confirmed to Good Morning America that a police report was filed in Haynes' case. According to the spokesperson, the case was not prosecutable. The case was not prosecutable due to the lack of evidence and limited cooperation from... What? They got all the information right there. We always encourage parents to be proactive and check their children's devices regularly. Oftentimes, we find kids use very innocent apps to maintain communication with offenders. Anytime allows a child to communicate or send messages can be used in an appropriate way and allow a gateway for offenders to reach children in otherwise same environment. Why is this not prosecutable? You're sending a kid pornography. Why is that not prosecutable? I'm sorry, but why is that not prosecutable? Once his parents knew what was happening, Haynes said he cut communication with the teenager and began to heal. He said part of his recovery now includes limiting his exposure to technology and social media, including spending nearly 2 years using a flip phone and staying off all social media apps. As he got older, Haynes said he was able to look back at what had been through and identify it as online grooming, a process in which a predator establishes a connection online with a minor by offering support and attention to gain their trust. Cases of online grooming, the predator sometimes gathers personal information about them, desensitizes them to sexual content by introducing sexually explicit conversations and porn, exploits any vulnerabilities the child may have. Yeah, that's absolutely what they do. In some instances, the predator may manipulate minors into sending compromising photos or videos of themselves and then use that material against them. That's exactly what they do, whether for a ransom or to get more graphic images. That's exactly what they do. Haynes said his experience did not include him sending photos of himself, thankfully. Haynes said as he got older, he became angry that the iMessage platform the teenager used to communicate with him did not have features to keep him safe, including the ability for Haynes to report and block him. Well, iMessage does that. You can block people on iMessage. You absolutely can. You just block their number. So, of course you can. Of course you can block them. When we moved over to iMessage, there was no way to report him. Yeah, there is. Well, no way to report him, but you can block him. Other platforms had reporting features available. In June, Haynes participated in a protest at Apple headquarters, calling on the tech giant to implement more measures to protect kids' safety from its products. The protest was organised by the HEAT Initiative, a non-profit organisation that describes itself on its website as a collective effort of concerned child safety experts and advocates, encouraging leading technology companies to detect and eradicate child sexual abuse images and videos on their platform. A spokesperson for Apple refers ABC News to the multiple safety features the tech company now has in place on iMessage and its other platforms, including a communication limits feature, which allows parents and guardians to choose with whom the child can communicate. In 2021, with the release of iOS 15, Apple deployed additional communication safety features for minors, including a warning when they attempt to send or receive images or videos containing nudity. Starting with iOS 17, the feature is now default for child accounts under 13, according to Apple. Parents can adjust and enable the feature in settings. Okay, cool. The company says Siri Spotlight and Siri search features now deploy. Okay, so... All right. I'll leave a link to this. It's nearly the end anyway. Here's the link if you want to just read to the end. But it's, it's a problem. It's a problem. But, you know, these large tech companies, I don't think you can blame. I don't think you can blame them all. There's no answer. There's no answer because, you know, block them on one app, they'll go to another app. I think that the thing is education. Education. Not just for children, but also for parents. But in the best, you know, even with the very, very best reporting features, blocking features, these predators are always going to be out there. They're always going to be out there. But how frustrating it is to know that the police didn't prosecute that person for sending a kid pornography. That's insane. That's insane. I think there should have been, right, let's go back to Sebastian. I'm gonna check out in a minute anyway. I think there should have been more forensic testing done. Sheriff just assumed he took off. Statistically, parents, step-parents are likely. This wasn't looked into. Yes, it was. Like, what forensic testing do you need? Because the house was gone over with a fine-tooth comb numerous times. So the forensics people were involved from day one. From day one. So what more what more could they have done? I don't understand what more they could have done. It's ludicrous to think Ellie hasn't used all of their resources. They did. What more resources could they have used? So they had helicopters, drones, hundreds of people out searching, including the FBI, TBI, load of such different sheriff's offices and rescue services. Equisearch were out there. Equisearch were out there for the first couple of weeks. Dogs. There are people on horseback. ATVs. The house was searched numerous times. Like, all the neighborhoods have been canvassed. All the security footage have been analysed. The FBI have done experiments using the cameras out there on Kelling Lane. All the technology's been searched. What more could they have done? Yeah, the National Guard were out there. The National Guard did like 2 days searching with them. I don't know what else they could have done. But that doesn't mean to say that Sebastian it doesn't mean to say that Sebastian isn't still out there. Because like I said, in that first week, they were looking for a living person. You know, in the first week, when somebody goes missing, you're assuming and you're hoping that they're alive. Divers, they drain ponds. Equisearch searched 50 ponds in the area. I don't know what more they could have done at the time, you know, at the time. In the Madeleine Soto case, a cadaver dog did not pick up. Never heard of it, did a cadaver scent in the silver car? Is it possible for the death in a home to be missed? Yes and no. Is the answer. A cadaver dog did hit in the Madeleine Soto case. A cadaver dog did hit on Jen's car. I've done videos on that. So cadaver dog did hit on Jen's car. But in Sebastian's case, or in any case, if you're very recently deceased and then your body's moved, a cadaver dog probably isn't going to alert. But we're talking about within the first hour and a half. So cadaver dog hits become reliable on a surface where a dead body's been laid if that body has been deceased for over an hour and a half. So you could place a dead body down for a matter of a few minutes onto the ground. But as long as that body's been dead for at least an hour and a half, you will get a reliable cadaver dog hit. Not 100%, because nothing's ever 100%. And the longer that body's been deceased, the more likely it is for that cadaver dog to have hit. So if Sebastian, let's say, for example, Sebastian died in the night and Katie found him dead and panicked, the chances of a cadaver dog hitting in the house would be very high. But if somebody's just died and then you move the body, then no, there'll be no cadaver dog sent for a cadaver dog to pick up on. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think, honestly, cops probably took that with a pinch of salt. So I don't think it would have slowed the cops down, because I think they realise that kids very often have internet access without their parents knowing. I'm going to go as well. I'm going to go right now. So thank you all for joining me. I do hope that this case can get back on track. I doubt it will. I do live in hope. I doubt it will, because drama sells. Drama sells, and you'll buy it. You'll buy it. So what am I to do? What am I to do? Keep carrying on, like, keep covering the case, but know full well that people don't watch my live streams, people don't share my live streams, because they're all in the drama. They're all in the drama. So I have talked quite a bit about this case in the last few days, but it makes me less and less inclined to want to cover it, because it's a bit demoralizing. You know, talk about the case, and there's what? How many people in? 438 people in the chat right now. Looked at a stream talking about drama, and you'd have 3 times that. Easy, 3 times that. People love it. People love it. Love it. But what cases would you like to see me cover? For those still in the chat right now, what cases would you like to see me cover? Have you got any requests? Drama is pointless. It absolutely is. Drama is pointless. Oh, thank you. Donna Adelson. Jeremy Bamber. Never heard of that person. Bryce Witchley. Any news on Jack? I'm actually going to do a live stream on Jack, because he's now been missing for 6 months. So, no, he's still missing. But there's been a renewed appeal for him. So I am going to do a live stream on Jack. Ezra, how should you even say that? Ezra Urine. Jeremy Bamber's a doozy. Please pause when Jen Soto's locked up. Okay, I will. I don't think she's going to be charged. I don't think she's going to be charged. Sarah Boone. I did a video on Sarah Boone a while ago, and not a lot of people watched it. I will be talking about it when the trial's on. I'm following with humour. I do watch all her hearings, because it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. She's got a lawyer now, hasn't she? Any updates on Elijah Vu? No, there isn't. No updates on Elijah. Bryce Witchliffe was arrested for what? importuning. Tried to get an 8-year-old girl. He also tried to hit on my daughter when she was 13. Oh, my word. Mommy of hamsters. Oh, my word. There's 82 people currently missing in Tenerife. 82? Wow. Sandra Birchmore and corrupt cops. Nine-year-old killed by dad's girlfriend, Jamari Sessions. Sandra Birchmore is a really sad case from dodgy Canton. Oh, God, Massachusetts. Oh, no. Oh, no. Hold on. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to have to look up Jeremy Bamber because it's a doozy. Jeremy Bamber. Can't even spell Bamber. Oh, him. I was talking about like new cases, honestly. Jeremy Neville Bamber, born 1961, is British convicted mass murderer, was convicted of the 1985 White House Farm murders, in which the cases included Bamber's adoptive parents, Neville and June Bamber. Oh, I do know this case. Yeah, I do know this case. So that would be a Crime Story Sunday case, honestly. On the 10th of March 2021, a new application was lodged for a referral to the Court of Appeal. As of 2023, he spent 37 years in prison, making him one of the longest-serving prisoners in the UK. All right, so he's another Scott Peterson, is he? Trying to appeal his case. Bryce Witchley. Witchy. Oh, okay. Let me just share this. Mansfield man arrested on importuning charge. Solicited an 8-year-old, dear me. So Mansfield were. Because there's a Mansfield in the UK. What country is this even? Mansfield police on Friday morning said Bryce Witchy, 28, was arrested at his residence after a parent called the police about a man reaching out to her daughter on social media. Witchy was arraigned on Friday morning via video conferencing from the Richland County Jail. According to the Mansfield police report, officers served a felony for the 3rd-degree warrant on Witchy. Dear me. Well, seems they got him, which is good. All right, guys, I'm gonna go right now. Mansfield, Ohio. All right, cool. Sarah Birchmore case is horrible. Such a disgusting use of trust and power. Federal charges. Okay, all right, I'm going to go now. Definitely going to go this time. So thank you all. Thanks, mods. Thanks for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks to those that donated. Sorry, I just hit the mic. So if you were wearing earbuds, you've probably had a shock just right then. Yeah, thanks to people who donate. Welcome to the new members, and I'll see you next time. I'm going to be doing a live stream on Jack O'Sullivan, missing for 6 months. Might do that tomorrow. Might even do it later today, but probably tomorrow. So for now, I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.